Hello and welcome to Pastor Well. I'm Hershael York, Dean of the School of Theology at the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm also the pastor emeritus of the Buck Run Baptist Church in Frankfort, Kentucky, where I served there for 20 years as lead pastor. And I love to talk about matters that matter to pastors. That's what Pastor Well is about. And one of the key things that you need to do as a shepherd, as a pastor, is create an environment in your church that cultivates and develops healthy marriages. How do you do that? How can you have a church that leads couples in having healthy marriages? Well, it may not shock you for me to tell you that the very first thing you need to do is have one yourself. You really need to make the investment in your marriage. I tell this all over, but in 1973, Walmart stock went public at $16 a share. And if I had bought 100 shares of Walmart stock in 1973, I was 13 years old. I had laid out $1,600. If I had just held on to that and just let that stock grow, reinvested all the dividends, today I'm going to say that I think last time I checked, that would be worth somewhere around $60 million, something like that, some insane number. You know why I don't have $60 million? Because I never made the investment. Here's my point. You'll never get a return on an investment you don't make. If you want the benefit of marriage and a good, healthy marriage, then you're going to have to make the investment. Now, that's true on your personal level. It's also true in your church. If you want your church to be known for healthy marriages, then you're going to have to make some real key investments in your church that will grow those marriages over the course of time. The primary one is yours. I've said this many times. The number one source of my authority at every church I pastored, other than the Word of God itself, was my marriage. It gave me a credibility. It made people say, I want to listen to this guy. I think what he does at home works. People wanted the kind of marriage they saw that Tanya and I had, that it was joyful, delightful, that we loved each other, that we had fun with each other, that we enjoyed going through life together. And when people see that in you, they say, how do you have that? This has happened to us. It's been our number one witnessing tool. Throughout the years, people have said, hey, you two seem to be really in love. What's your secret? And it's just opened the door. And we've won a lot of people to the Lord because the conversation started that way. And that's what we want to see take place in the marriages in every church we serve. So when you do it, when you have that kind of a home, people are going to ask about it. And there will be natural ways for you to just have that conversation. But then, frankly, you've got to lead out in it in your church. It's not enough to merely model it. You have to teach it. So you need to disciple other couples. So let's say you're pastoring a small church. Okay, find one or two couples in there that you and your wife can disciple, that you can spend time with. Just recently, even though I'm no longer senior pastor at Buck Run, they still are gracious enough to have Tanya and I lead the marriage retreat, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. But at that marriage retreat, a young lady that grew up under my ministry, now she's a mom, and she and her husband came to us and said, hey, could we go out to dinner with you all? We were talking about who would we most like to spend some time with, and it was you and Miss Tanya. Could we spend an evening with you? Well, there's no way I'm going to say no to that. We're willing to make an investment in them and spend time with them. And that's what you need to do. You need to say, how can we disciple couples? How can we teach them to live in that overflow of joy and to help them through the challenges of life, help them be devoted to Christ so that their marriage operates spiritually, emotionally, physically, and how they manage work and parenting and all those things. You need to train them. And so you do it personally by spending time with them. And let me obviously give you the caveat. You want to make sure that this is always in appropriate ways, that you're never spending time alone with a person of the opposite sex talking about intimate things. We do it as a couple, or I do it with the husband and Tanya with the wife. But you just want to always stay completely ethical, above board, pure. You want to make sure that you're doing this like a father to children or a brother to brother. But you guard yourself so that nothing ever gets inappropriate. It's always about pointing them to Christ, and you do that as a couple. The other thing that you should do is that you need to make sure that you program it in your church. Now, I want you to think about something. Your church very well may have a youth pastor. Why? Because you value youth. And you say, well, we need to make sure that we're training youth. You probably have a worship leader or a worship pastor. Why? Because we value worship. Do you have someone to work with marriages? Now, why do we miss this? Marriages are really sort of the wellspring from which everything else comes. You only have youth because you have marriages. You only have worship because you really have families. We need to spend a lot more time investing in marriages. And frankly, you need to appoint some key people who are doing marriage well in your church to lead in a marriage ministry. And there are wonderful ministers out there that can help you do this. I highly recommend, for instance, Grace Marriage, led by my friend Brad Rhodes. And they just help churches where you have basically sort of quarterly checkups with couples, and couples come together and talk about marriage. And you need to do some kind of regular programming where you're doing marriage checkups and you're helping people. And if they're struggling, they say, hey, we need help, and other couples can come along beside them, or you as the shepherd can get involved. But obviously you really want preventive care more than the kind of care that comes along after something's happened. So you need to think about that. One of the key things that we do is a marriage retreat every year at Buck Run. We go several hours away. We go down to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, rent out an entire hotel, and we do a marriage retreat. Now, here's a key. If you do this, you don't want to overprogram. This is one of the key mistakes I see. Guys want rightfully to teach their couples, and so they do a marriage retreat, and they just overprogram it. It's just, we're going to go here teaching in the morning, teaching in the afternoon, teaching at night, give a free hour here or there. But frankly, if you do that, you might get them to come once. They won't come back. Buck Run, we do it every year. And you know what the secret sauce is, the formula that works? We give them a little teaching and a lot of time together. So we only do teaching. We do teaching Friday night, give them all day Saturday, do whatever they want. Then Saturday night, and then Sunday morning, we have a time of worship. And so Tanya and I taught 3 sessions. We taught 2 together, and then Sunday morning I shared. This particular one we just finished, we did the book from the book of James. One of the things I want our couples to learn is to take all these admonitions to Christians and then to apply them in marriage. Sometimes we fail to see that the parts of the Bible that apply to marriage are not just Ephesians 5 and places where marriage is explicitly mentioned. It's all the Bible. Everything in the Bible is for marriage. Those admonitions that tell me how to live like a Christian, I need to apply in marriage. So Ephesians 4 is as much about marriage as Ephesians 5. And I really want to teach people that, to read the Bible and say, in marriage, I should not show favoritism. In marriage, I should make sure that I'm living by the golden rule. All those things apply in marriage as well. So if you do marriage retreats, give people a lot of time to be together, a few questions maybe to answer. Your target audience is sort of the guy that doesn't want to be there, and very few men want to do these things. So you want to do it in such a way that the guy leaves going, that wasn't so bad. And you're not asking people to pour out their deepest secrets or say, hey, tell me all the ways I have failed you during our marriage. You're giving them hope. You're giving them an invitation into a marriage that honors God. And you're doing it a little bit at a time, but you're doing it over and over and over. You teach it, you model it, you coach it, you talk about it. You do what you need to do to have a healthy, joyful marriage, and you teach over and over about Christ's love of his church in your illustrations, in your sermons, in whatever passage you're preaching. You find ways to work into your application things about marriage, and you make that the standard. You really want the success of marriage to be so much the standard that anytime there's a failure in marriage in the church, it is scandalous. It's not that you're trying to shame people, but it's grievous, it's sad. And other couples will make the investment to try and help people find healing, forgiveness, if it's at all possible. But you need to really make it a key theme of your ministry, of your church, where you're talking and thinking a lot about marriage, because it is the heart of really everything that's going to happen in your church. So when you highlight marriage and help people to have a godly marriage, that's going to help you pastor well.